Hey, it is AceditGaming, and today we're going to re-review Barbara. So I actually did a Barbara video the day that I had finished skilling her up, and I did all of the review while I was testing her, and honestly, that was just the wrong way to do it. When you look at a monster, you can usually figure out the best first build for a monster, but when you're truly going to use a monster effectively, it's because you've tested it for a while and you understand what it does and what comps it works best in and so forth. So for Barbara, I have at this point now tested quite a few builds and comps, and I can strongly recommend that you're going to want to put her in Violent Will. Now, obviously not everybody can put her in Will. I mean, Violent Will is the ideal build for most monsters, right? Here's the thing. You're going to wind up using Barbara more than the vast majority of your monsters. So I would dedicate that Violent Will set to her if you can, but if for any reason you cannot, Violent is still the build I would try to stick with and then just make it Violent something. If you can't put her in a Violent set, then I would probably make Rage as my second choice, Fatal is my third, and Swift is my last, and we'll talk about why in a minute. But just remember that at the end of the day, whatever set you put your monster into, you're targeting specific stats and speed tuning. So if you need to use Swift because you don't have good enough Rage or Fatal, or because you just have 50 attack percent subs on your Swift set, that's okay. But when it comes to Barbara, because of the way her kit is set up, Violent really benefits her through the turn cycling. So with that said, let's take a quick look at her kit. Now, all the Beast Riders, I believe all the Beast Riders have the same skill 1, which is that they attack the enemy to decrease the attack speed for 2 turns, with a 50% chance once it is fully skilled up. Now, I have never tested this, but I did see a Sean B video when the Beast Riders came out, and the damage difference was very, very small. That's not a key component of the skill. The fact that you slow the enemy is the real key component here. The skill 2 is a multi-hit. It's 2 hits. The first hit, defense breaks the enemy. The second hit will absorb 25% of the enemy's attack bar per negative effect on the enemy. Now that seems like a small thing on the surface, but it can be a really big deal when you're talking about strategic gameplay, and we'll get into that in a little while. But for the time being, just know that if you attack an enemy with no debuffs, you have a chance to absorb 25% attack bar, assuming you land your own defense break. But if you attack an enemy with 3 debuffs already, let's say they have a slow and a silence and a continuous damage, and then you defense break, now you absorb 100% of the attack bar, which means you just turn cycled yourself. Okay, the last skill is what makes Barbara special, the start of attacking, and this skill does a whole lot, and it's really, like, when I say it's what makes Barbara special, it's the fact that it synergizes so well with the rest of her kit. So basically, this skill starts off by stripping the enemy, and then it does a partial ignore defense, 35% ignore defense for each beneficial effect that was stripped, and then it boosts the attack bar of all of the allies in the team. So it's 3 different distinct benefits from this skill. And it's part of what makes Barbara so amazing, but it's also what makes Barbara so tricky to use, because you really have to understand exactly what you're trying to accomplish when you use her skill 3, because even fully skilled up, it's a 5-turn cooldown. Now, like all Beast Riders, Barbara also has a passive, so once she dies the first time, all beneficial and harmful effects are cleansed. She dismounts the beast. It's not a resurrect, it's just like a restart with half of her HP but doing double the damage. She also loses 15% of her attack speed. So Barbara is primarily an attack type monster, and that means that you're going to want to get a really good amount of attack, crit damage, and crit rate on her. But the passive also means that she's kind of a tanky, she's not exactly tanky, but she's a live for a long time attack type monster. Think of her as like a Perna. So just like Perna, we want to emphasize HP. Now right now we're looking at my in-game Barbara. She doesn't have my greatest runes. In RTA, she obviously has a lot more HP. Kind of similar, all the other stats, just a lot more HP, and a lot more accuracy as well in RTA. You want to get as much extra HP onto your Beast Riders as you can. If you can put them over 21,000 while keeping them in a speed, crit damage, attack build, that is the way to go. Even better if you have just like crazy speed subs in an attack slot too. Attack, crit damage, attack is an even better build. Now, Barbara's skills are reliant very heavily upon accuracy. 43 accuracy honestly is too low. I would strongly recommend putting her over 50% accuracy, at least in RTA. In-game, you can get away with something over 40% because you're usually going to be more selective about the times that you bring her in and the enemies you bring her in against. Now, the single most important element to understand about Barbara is speed tuning, and it comes back to this skill 3. It's the fact that Barbara can do so many different things. It's actually the skill 2 and the skill 3 together. So Barbara is a defense breaker, she's an attack bar absorber, she's an attack bar booster, she's a stripper, and she has the chance to ignore defense. It's 5 different things that she can do between 2 skills. What truly makes Barbara shine is the fact that she's so incredibly flexible. She works in a lot of different types of comps. But to make her work in those comps, you have to speed tune her properly. So here's the thing. Barbara's attack bar boosting is reliant based on it's reliant based on how much damage you do. But the damage that skill does is reliant upon either stripping a lot of beneficial effects or having a defense break. So if all you're doing is stripping will, you're not going to do a ton of damage. And because that skill boosts attack bar based on the amount of damage that she does, you're not going to boost your attack bar as much. You also can't rely on how much it's going to be boosted unless you have 100% crit rate. So you put yourself in a position to fail. In addition, you have a 5-turn cooldown on this thing, so you really want to save it for when you need to strip something. At the same time, her skill 2 has the ability to nuke something out. So the ideal speed tuning for Barbara is to put her slower than most of your strippers, but faster than most of your nukers. You want her somewhere in between. So for example, Barbara should be slower than Lauren. She should be slower than Okeanos. I know not everybody has those specific monsters, but just think about the monsters that you use that have the ability to strip. If your strip monsters are in front of Barbara, then Barbara acts as a backup stripper in case your strip monsters get resisted. If your nukers act behind Barbara, then Barbara acts as a defense breaker in front of those nukers. Now, I will say that with start of attacking, you want to try to save this for whenever the enemy has 3 beneficial effects. So one of the most effective counters that one of the monsters that Barbara counters really effectively in RTA is Shihu. Because Shihu gives himself will and invincibility, and a lot of times the enemy team may have like an attack buffer, so he winds up with 3 buffs on him. After he goes and gives himself will and invincibility, if he already has attack buff, Barbara can then strip him and completely ignore defense and one-shot him while he's invincible. Another reason why accuracy is so important with Barbara. Any water or fire nuker will finish off the Juno because basically your Barbara, when it attacks Juno, it defense breaks it, but just as importantly, that attack bar absorb prevents the nemesis that most Junos are on from causing it to cut. But it's all set up by Barbara's ability to absorb the attack bar. So let me drop this down to 1 speed. Now the Masha cut here because of Masha's passive. If I wasn't using Masha, then Barbara would be acting second. My Masha is actually slower than Barbara, but she just gets a bigger attack bar boost. But the effect of the Beast Rider here is the same. We defense broke and absorbed the attack bar, so Juno did not get to cut. Now we come in with our second Beast Rider. We went ahead and absorbed the attack bar again. You saw Barbara did about 31,000 damage there, so it might have been a heavier built defense built Juno. We go ahead with the Ganymede. We reset that Harmonia. Okay, so you see the comp below. Now, this is not the comp I would ordinarily use against that team, but I wanted to try and set something up that was largely free to play, but also used Barbara. So we're using the Kali, and she's just going to give herself a crit rate boost, which she really doesn't need, but it's the only leader skill I have on that team, so we did it. But basically, the way that team is going to go, I assume the Wedjet is actually going to act first, and it's going to boost the enemy. Now, my Kali Ignore defense will one-shot the Fen Yang, and then Barbara is going to be able to take care of the Leica because of the multi-hits, and also with Barbara's skill 3, the strip, she might be able to ignore defense on the Wedjet because there are so many buffs on the enemy side. Okay, so the Wedjet did go first as expected. The Fen Yang then went after my Barbara. As we look at the team right now, we see that we could use Barbara to strip and get a partial ignore defense, but she's not attack boosted yet. So what I would actually prefer to do is at this point, while I still have I have a choice between skills, I'm going to go ahead and just reduce the attack bar of that Leica and also put on the initial defense break. And then we will go ahead and attack buff everybody with our collie. Go ahead and heal that Barbara up a little bit because we know Fen Yang's going to hit her again. And now I can go ahead and take 2 hits on the Leica. It won't quite die. I missed the strip. I would have liked the strip, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and kill the Fen Yang. And then see if we can get a sleep right here on the Wedjet. We didn't, but that's okay. We're going to avoid that Leica for right now because of the counterattack. I'm going to wait to get back to my fast link on the Barbara. And we're okay with just letting the Leica hit the Triana. Now I've got my fast link again. I can absorb some attack bar, and this should... didn't quite finish him, but that's okay. He'll be finished on the next hit. So we'll go ahead and... we'll go ahead and finally finish him off. Okay, so again, just trying to set up something that's a little more free-to-play friendly. So we're going to use our 2A Vigor. We'll actually go ahead and use the Fran speed lead plus Vigor is going to give me an additional speed lead on Barbara. So we're going to try and turn cycle and lap a little bit, again, taking advantage of that attack bar absorption. And then we'll use the Vigor is not speed. The Vigor is 253 and the Barbara is 255. So unfortunately, the Vigor is not speed tuned. It's not ideal. And this is actually the first time I've ever used Vigor. I think I just built him. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so you'll notice we've got our Fran going first here, which is going to give us our attack buff. So we get our immunity up as well. Now, in this case, since I don't have the ability to defense break anything except for the Jean, and I assume that the Jean is actually going to be max res with that resistance lead, what we're going to do instead is strip the will off the Theo and hopefully get Vigor to pop the Endure. So we didn't get the strip, but you know what? I don't think it actually matters. This should be enough to pop Endure anyway, even though we don't get the defense break advantage. Yeah, we popped Endure while we've got the immunity up, so that was perfect. Jean wasted her invincibility, which didn't really matter. We'll go ahead and get Fran to heal herself, and I don't even need to use my fast link. I can just kill out right there. A little bit more heal, some crit resist, and all that good stuff. We'll defense break, or try to defense break the Perna. We'll absorb some of Perna attack bar, and notice that allowed Vigor to cut the Perna now. And so we've already just about turn cycled through. As soon as that Perna is down, which unfortunately we got provoked, so we're going to have to get through an extra turn or so here. But I think we're still okay. Now, I did mention that you want your Barbara on Violent. Mine hasn't procced yet, but this would be another reason why you'd want Barbara on Violent, just to proc out of that cycle. Instead, the enemy will put their Perna on Violent. And see if we can finish off the Perna here. Oh, fully resisted at 1 HP. Oh, no. But we do have attribute advantage here, so... and again, this isn't necessarily the comp I would normally use in this team. I just wanted to kind of demonstrate how Barbara works. Now, I have a choice. I could defense break, but, and again, this is back to that choice here. I could defense break, but I don't need to, because that Perna is going to be squishy. It has no defense. So instead, what I'd rather do is go ahead and attack boost my Vigor. So we'll go ahead and use the skill 3. We get the attack boost on the Vigor, which then cycles me back into my speed boost. Now I can defense break the Jean, and I can finish off the Jean right here. Okay, guys, so that is it for the re-review of Barbara. Just to recap, Barbara is probably the single most versatile monster in the game. She does so many different things. It's just really important you make sure that you put thought into why you're using her skills when you're using them, and make sure she's speed tuned so that she can work with a variety of comps so that you take full advantage of everything she can do. And don't forget the accuracy. Honestly, again, that 43 that I have on her is too low. You saw that Theo resist me because of the Jean resistance lead. 50 plus is probably the minimum I would put on her, especially in RTA. So as always, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time. Hey guys, if you're still with me to this point, then that means that you probably liked the video, found it entertaining, or even better, both. So please smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below, because those things help the channel grow, and more importantly, they show me that the video is useful, and that's the whole reason I do this in the first place.